Hello. Hi guys, this is Alejandra. Today, this is our lecture for week 6, Math 116 class. And I was telling the guys that were here live in the meeting that I'm doing a slight modification in the class from now on. Because we're not working so much with server because the school server that we were using has been retired. It was called Cythos and it doesn't work anymore. I've eliminated the last assignment. There was an assignment where everybody was putting their work on the server, and it was an assignment where people were having big problems. So I'm so glad that we're doing online and we don't have that assignment anymore. But then I've made animation 1 week longer for you guys. So we're concentrating on advanced tweens in week 6. In week 7, we'll be working with movie clip symbols and strictly with nesting, that is one symbol inside the other. And from there on, we're all going to be 1 week behind. So I'm trying to work hard to have all the numbers matching. So when you're in module 9, the assignment would also, the sample file would say 9, but I'm working on it. So I'm asking John, that is our tutor, and I ask you also that if you read something from now on, where you're obviously in module 10, and suddenly there are references to 9 or reference, like there's something that is not really working, tell me so I can correct that. Okay, so that's one thing. Another one. This class, all my classes are being evaluated this semester because we're not having enough fun. We want more fun. So something that I did yesterday and is going to help, you're going to receive an email in pipeline that is asking you to fill a form. But since in online classes are famous for people not seeing the email and not participating, and if we don't have enough people giving feedback, then we need to keep that period of evaluation open for longer. So I've also managed to put a kit that is a student evaluation of instructor. And you can click on that and you will get the forms that are asking you about me and the class. Now, I cannot check it because I'm the instructor. So I'm not positive that that kit is already there. I'm working with secretary and I know that probably this week, by the end of this week or beginning next week, you're going to be getting that email. And then this one would also be available. So you don't have to do it twice. You do it once. But I want to have it here also because I know that there are people that are not checking pipeline that often. Okay. So the evaluation, probably next week, I will have more solid information about the evaluation's work, how the evaluation is working. So we're in week 6. And in the past, in week 6, we were still here because we were doing so many things at the same time. And I'm trying to have it a little bit slower. But as we do it slower, I'm trying to cover the content a little bit better. And so we have 2 different pages with content. The first one, that is the one that you usually see, that is content and links. We're going to be dealing with curve paths. That's one of the main themes of this week. We're working with tweens, and we want to see how do you move things. I don't want you guys to get confused. How do you move things when you have an object? I have an object. Bottle of pills. We like this. We have an object, and the object is moving on stage and is moving on a curved path. By default, shape tweens and classic tweens move on a straight line. Let's not talk about shape tweens because that's more like a morph, but we're concentrating in tweens that use symbols, and that is classic tween and motion tween. So a classic tween moves, from point to point in the easiest line. Now the motion tween, it's better because the motion tween by default has a path. You see, the path is here. So it creates a path. When you select that tween, you will see the path. The path by default is also straight, but you can move it like if you were moving any other line, and you can create a curved path. Okay. So in a motion tween is a little bit more difficult to maneuver with, but the path is already built. So creating a curve movement path trajectory on a stage is easy. I'm making a lot of emphasis on the path because I don't want you to confuse a path that works in space with the curve that it goes with speed, and that is in time. Okay, so when we're talking about curved paths or trajectories. I'm putting trajectories so it's even easier, although that's a word that might be clear for somebody that speaks Spanish than speaks English. So those are paths in space. So with motion twins, not a big deal. I even talked about it last week, not a big deal. Now, if you want a curved path using a classic twin, because it doesn't come out with a path directly, we have to do a workaround. And I'm gonna explain the workaround. I have a tutorial with 2 parts that is showing the old interface when the interface was light, but actually the technique has not changed. The only aspect in which it has changed is the very end that we use. Remember that you can double click on a layer and then it takes you to layer properties and you can define what do you want to do. So in this case, when you want to have a curved path in a classic twin, you're going to work with 2 layers. Your twin is going to be underneath, you see, the layer underneath. But then on the layer on top, you're going to put another layer. And in that layer, you're going to draw. Espera, I haven't done this. Let me pin myself and close it so you can see a bigger interface. So you're going to put a layer on top. You're going to call it guide. And you're going to draw there whatever you want to be that curved path. Okay? Then we're going to be double clicking in properties. And we're going to be setting this guide layer to work as a guide. And then immediately that layer is going to change icon and it's going to transform into a hammer. A layer that works as a guide is like an assistant layer. And one of the properties that it has is that once you go outside to SWF, or even if you have that guide inside a symbol and you go out to the stage, whenever you get out of that timeline, whatever is in that layer disappears. So when we export, we're not going to see that line and the thing moving on the line disappears. It's an assistant. So once you have this layer, knowing that it's working as a guide, now the last step, do I have an image? Yes. All weekend, making lovely images and putting them here. So what you have to do, we used to be able to double click, go to layers, and we will have guided as an option, but that doesn't exist anymore. So what you do is you're gonna drag physically the layer from the tween layer, and you're gonna drag it towards the guide. And when they kind of cling, link and see each other, then both icons would work. This one, the one on top will work as a guide, and the one underneath would work as guided. You will see it indented. So then you have a curve. But there's one step, last step that you need to have. That is that the center of that symbol, of the element that you're moving in the tween, the center need to be touching the guide so it can follow it. Because that center, remember, is the axis of scale and the axis for rotation. So in order to follow, to consider also the axis for motion, it needs to snap, and it needs to snap in the in and in the out. So in some cases, you might have to take the thing, make sure that you have a snap to objects on, and then, put it close to the line, whatever you want to begin and whatever you want to end. And then the object hopefully would follow, okay? If you do the whole process slowly, step by step, and when you finish, the element is still doing that, that means that something is wrong. Either the guide is not a guide layer, the guided has not been indented and they're not working together, or the center is not snapping into the lines, okay? So you might say, why do I want to do this? There is so many steps when I work with a motion twin and gives me the curve. Okay, if you want to do curve paths with motion twin, that is fine. But there's certain situations in which this is very practical, because you have a guide and you can have, we're guiding one guide, but we can guide a number of them. And you have one guide that is working for everybody. For example, if you're working on a race, you could have, some object joins the guide later, or some element gets out of the guide before. So working with only one guide and all the elements and the guide drawn on a layer and all the elements working on different layers, that gives you a lot of play. You can invent interesting things. Also very important, for example, imagine that you have a mountain and you want the guy to be walking like that. Is following a mountain. If you do it with a motion tween, you have to be in the motion tween, moving the guide so it really resembles the mountain. But if you're working in this way, you take the outline of the mountain, you put that line as a guide, then you take your little guy that is walking and you say you're going to be working with this. Then you say, follow the path in anime. I will show you where, so it follows. And now you have the little guy walking perfect on the shape of the other element. So, you know, it takes a little bit of work to get a classic tween working with a guide, but for certain situations, it's a better solution than working with a motion tween. And I guess that Adobe got it because they brought motion tweens and they didn't eliminate classic tweens because there's certain situations in which it's still useful. Okay, so I'm gonna explain it in the file, but this is what we have to learn regarding curved paths in your animation, okay? Then there's yet another page. I'm coming back here. And there's another page in which I have put changes of speed and working with masks. It's two different things. I saw some changes of speed last week, but in general, people are very shy with changes of speed. And remember that if you don't add a change of speed, the motion would be like that. And it just divides the space that it has to cover or the change of the property, if it's a scale, if it's a rotation, if it's a change of alpha. So it calculates what is the change that you want, divides it in frames, and at the same time. In good animation, you only have that type of movement when you're moving a robot or something that is not alive. But if you're moving something organic, you always want to have a little bit of ease, a little bit of changes of speed. Now, you can do the changes of speed either with keyframing. If you're keyframing, you're saying, I want to go from here to here in this time, but then from here to here in this short time. So then logically it's going faster. Or you can apply a pre-made ease. And last week we were looking at applying the easiest ease over here. And that gives you a first sense of organic. But take into account that you could also separate, because we usually work with all the properties together. We could also, and we're talking about classic tweens, you could also separate each one of the properties when you're working with classic tweens, and then apply a different ease or draw your curve one by one. This is not needed all the time. It's needed sometimes, you know, when, for example, you say, you know, I want to do this, and then as it's arriving, it's also going to do that because it's ta 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 ta, and then jumping. So I would say, hey, I want my position to be changing across. Maybe I want a little ease, and then I want to draw my path. So only at the very end, I jump, okay, as opposed to doing and jumping from the very beginning. So in certain situations, being able to separate each property and create the speed for each property is a good thing. Now, couldn't you just keyframe? Yes, you can keyframe, but if you're keyframing, then you have to take timing into account on your hands. You have to have better control. If the same tween is doing motion and then jump, you're making sure that that transition is going to be smooth, you know? If not, you have to be looking at the animations and is this working or not? Doesn't look like it's running and suddenly stops and now it's jumping. So it depends if you want to do it by hand or if you want this thing to help you. Okay, so this is classic tweens. I'm going to explain it again in the file in a second. When you're working with, so this is a little view of the little options. We saw it last week. We're still in classic tweens. And those are the different type of eases, the different type of changes of speed you can do. I'll show it better with the software. And those are the options, the type of function that is working. Those are types of functions. You see, you have a sine, we don't have cosines, but we have, you know, quad, cubic, and then the ones that are crazy that are in the bottom. But So I'm explaining here a little bit, if you want to actually draw your own curve, how you could do it. Some of you might feel courageous as to begin drawing the curve once you understand. Some of you are like, no, give me a pre-made ease because that's easier for me. But the business here is that if you're working with a motion editor, that is the one that gives you the path from the very beginning, the one where you have the first keyframe is circle and all the rest are diamonds, the one that resembles Adobe After Effects. So if you're working with that one, you will not have so many options here on the side. You will not have that. What you have is a proprietary editor that is called the Motion Tween editor. And that editor is placed on the timeline. So you double click and the editor opens. And it works very different from the other, but it works a little bit closer to how After Effects works. Okay, we're gonna take a look. You will see each one of the properties that you're tweening, it would show by itself. I put this example here that I like a lot. Something like that is what would first enlighten me to understand this. The first thing that I saw this editor, I saw it in a 3D program, and I was still here trying to finish my thesis. And when I saw it, I said, there's no way I can understand this. And the teacher did this example, and it helped me. I said, okay, so what would happen if the element that we're moving moves only in a horizontal plane and is moving in a constant motion? So one frame after the other. Okay, so I look at the overlapping of my element, it goes at the same speed. I even see the little rosary that the motion tween, the motion path has little dots for where is the position for each one of the, in each one of the frames. And since the movement is happening in X because it's horizontal, but there's no movement in Y, if I open the motion tween, I would see that my movement in X, that is the one that is selected in red, is going from 0 to 100, okay? So this is the amount of change. This is the amount of frames. We see it here, isn't it? So that will be here and here. So this is how things are changing in time, amount of frames, and this is the amount that they're changing. On zero frame, there's zero change. So we're down there. By 50%, we will be 50% of change. And by the end of the tween, we have all the change already produced. So the line that we get is a diagonal. There's no change of speed. There's constant speed. And constant speed is a diagonal. Now, because there's no change in Y, because we're only moving like that, look at the Y that is not selected right now, but the color code is kind of like a coral color. And if you see it behind, it stays there the whole time because there's no change in Y, okay? Now, if we had rotation, rotation would be listed separate and we would see what is the curve for rotation. So the motion tween editor, you double click on the tween, opens, you double click again, closes. And you're gonna see each one of the properties listed by themselves. If the motion is constant, you will see a diagonal. If you have an ease or you have drawn a specific ease, you will see a curve, okay? That's the basic function of the tween editor. There's some other extra things that we can see. For example, this, and I want to tell you already in advance. I might have said, okay, this is my motion. It's the same animation. This is my motion. There is a diagonal. But then I'm applying an ease, and you apply an ease from here in the editor, not in properties. So from here, you know, here are all my options, and those are the good ones. The ones that are called ease, simple, and you have slow, medium, fast, fastest. So you choose the one that you want, and we don't have these. We may have now the quadratic, but I want you to notice that down here, you have the number of easing. So you might say, I want slow, but then I'm gonna increase or decrease the amount that I want. And what I wanted you to see is this. So my original movement is constant, but then I apply an ease, stop and start fast, I apply. And then do you see a line that is dotted? So that is how the timing has changed when you insert that ease curve. So the movement that would have been like that now is transforming into something that begins with an acceleration because it's going closer to vertical than the normal one, then slows down in the middle, and then accelerates also later. But notice that instead of the motion finishing here, the motion is finishing here. And this is very useful because some people do their timing all perfect, then they put an ease, and now things are working at a different time. So it's good to see where your ease, how your ease is transforming when things are happening. Now, if we look at the motion path of the motion tween, you see that the little rosary lines are not even anymore. Since we have an ease, we see that at the very beginning, there's a lot of space between them. That means it's beginning very, very fast, isn't it? Yes, it's beginning faster than normal. In the middle, they're very tight to each other. We're going way, way slower. And then it catches up again, okay? And then there's a little trick that I'm going to explain. That is, you could also add a point. Look at the place for adding a point to that curve. Now notice that whenever you add a point, it also adds a keyframe. Don't get like, why do I have a keyframe there? Well, if you draw a point, it would add a keyframe exactly in the same place. And then if you manually drag that point along the curve, that keyframe will change as you're dragging it, okay? And I actually like these better than applying an ease. You apply an ease and you have very little control of when things are happening, but you have your curve, your straight line, and now you add a point at a certain place, and it's a Bézier, so it has antennas, and then you pull from the antennas and you create your own curve, and you have perfect control of where things are happening. And if you want to change, all you have to do is move that point, that you can move it by hand. Go try change and ease. More percent, less percent. Oh, gee, it's not finishing where it has to finish. That is to me the problem of using a formula. It's good for simple movements, but if you're doing an animation that requires these finishes here, and now this one is doing that, and you're working with general eases, it's very easy that things get out of hand and they're not happening when they have to work, okay? So when we're working with changes of speed, we're gonna work in a different way with classic tweens. They have all their eases in properties. Then with motion tweens, that they have a specific motion tween editor. I mean, I got out of it and I didn't click, but you know, this is my computer. Okay, there's also a little bit of information on masks that I'm gonna be explaining here. I still have 2-3 more images that I wanna work on masks. Basically, when you're working with masks, let me go to the very bottom. When you're working with masks, you're again working with 2 layers. Now you're gonna have the shape. A mask is like looking through a window. So if you see in this project, I have a big image of bread. And then on the mask layer, I have the shape of a cup and the shape of those letters working as a mask, okay? So then wherever I have solid letter and wherever I have solid cup, a line doesn't make a mask. You need a solid. Wherever you have that solid shape, when we make those 2 layers work together and be locked, they have to be locked. If they're not locked, you will see what are you using as a mask, and you will see the complete masked layer. The masked layer, the one that is underneath, try to think it as a dough that is taking all over. And then the mask is like the cookie cutter that is defining, okay, I want my cookie to be only the shape. I don't want, you know, the whole layer of dough. I want my shapes of cookies. So a mask works the same. Be careful because in different programs, masks work slightly different. In Adobe Anime, and the same thing in After Effects, and very similar in Photoshop. On the mask, you put the surface, the area of what you want to mask. And then in the one underneath, you put the dough. That is, what is that you want to see that shape filled with, okay? So we're gonna do a process also. I don't have it very clear here, although I have a whole bunch of movies explaining how to work with masks. We'll have one layer that works as a mask. We'll have to double click on the layer also to make it change the raw model and work as a mask. And the other layer, this time in properties, would say work as masked in passive. And then when both layers, when they're both been assigned the layers to what is their new role, and when you lock them, then you see the effect of the mask, okay? I'm gonna explain everything, but it's good that I give a little bit of an overview. And remember that on every case, I'm putting LinkedIn and I have videos all over. So here you have the videos for the motion editor. So I do have videos. What I don't know if I did, maybe I didn't do. I don't know if I put a first video with a long link. And I think I did. Yeah. So this, one of the first videos, I still need to make it a long link. Now, if one day you realize that you're on a page following a video and there's no long link, so you're going to LinkedIn and it's telling you to pay. You come back to a week before, you find a link that is long link, you link first on that one, verifies you in pipeline, then you go to your normal link, okay? But I'm gonna try. As soon as I finish, I'm gonna put there another video probably up there, and it's gonna say long link, so you don't have to be looking at it. Okay, so let's leave that one there, and let's work here. We're back to the first one, that is working with the curve path. And I think that if I do it again, you would understand better. In your sample file, on the first, I have two scenes this time. And on the first scene, that is called guided, you have the thing finished. But then in the previous one, I have it at a level that is only guide. So the other one is still not being guided. So logically at this point, there's no curve path. And how I put one where there's only tween. Good, because then I can do the whole thing in this one. So you begin, if you want to do a curved path with a classic tween, you begin by having the tween. And you have your symbol that has been saved. In my case, is red circle. Library, get out of here. I'm going to double click on this so the library is not bothering me. So I do have my symbol that is here, and I was tweaking around. So look, I put the center of the symbol in a corner to see, you know, if I could make it work also, and I did. And it comes here, and where's here? Also in the corner. And we have our straight motion, but we want a curve. So we're going to create a new layer, and this time I'm going to call it G only. And here I need to take a drawing tool. Ideally, I can take a pencil, and I'm going to take the thinnest line. Don't put a thick line, because you're shooting yourself on the foot. A thick line is going to be difficult to see when you're snapping or not snapping. And I'm going to draw the curve that I want. In this case, I could do a curve. I could do a circle. It's a little bit of a challenging one. Should I do a circle or a curve? You have a curve in the sample file. So let's do it with a curve, with a curve. Venga. Boom. Now, what a gigantic disaster of a line did I do? Should I do it again? Let's do it again. Now, my goal is that this looks not very good, but this looks a little bit like a circle, a complete circle, but I cannot do a complete circle. If I do a complete circle, I cannot have the point snapping at the beginning and snapping at the end. So I'm going to have to do, I will change it later, a little bit of a trick. So it looks like it's a circle, but it's not a perfect circle. So once I have my guide in one layer and my tween in the other one, for the love of God, don't draw the circle in the guide, in the tween, because look what would happen for a second. If I come here and I draw something here, espera, this, no, let me select this one and say, I want to draw something here also. Do you see what happened with my tween? It broke. The only thing that you can have in a tween layer is what you're tweening, nothing raw, okay? So you're drawing whatever you want to be your guide on the other layer, but this is still a normal layer, so nothing's gonna happen. Isn't it? Now, I want to make sure that I have a snapping on. So I'm going to view snapping, and I want to snap to objects because I want to snap my circle to the guide. That's an object to an object. So right now I see that I have all the snapping on Earth on. Not that I need so much snapping. I don't need snap. Okay. So I have my tween and I have my layer. My next step is I'm going to take this layer. Notice that the little layer properties is here. It used to be at the end. They're constantly changing things in the interface to see if you pay attention. So double click and I say, I want this guy to be working as a guide. Okay. So I change it and my layer changes into a hammer. Now I'm seeing it blue because I have this one turned into outlines, the layer. Come back, and now I see it, it's normal color. Now, it doesn't matter what is the color of your guide, because once we go out, the guide is going to be invisible. And I'm making it the thinnest that I can, so I can really see if the snapping is happening. Okay, so I have that one in place. Now I can choose if I want to snap my element or if I want to make the other one guided. I'm going to make it first guided, because that way, so I'm seeing both. I'm double clicking, mira, both with the same color. Bad. Double click. We're going to change the outline color of this guy. I'm going to change it to red, something very. And now this guy, oh, I'm silly. I don't have to do it here anymore. Sorry, good, I came here and changed the color. To make it guided, I drag it. You see, physically, when I'm holding it, and you see a little line and the things like, oh, this is about to change. Let it go. They saw each other. Now, although they saw each other, this motion hasn't changed. Why? Because my circle is not snapping to the element. Now, right now, it's a very bad thing that I don't have the guy in the center, but we're going to keep it going. Okay, so I'm going to part one of my tween. Míralo. And it's actually, there, it's actually snapping. I would have loved that the guy had the thing in the center. Let me change it now. Grab this guy, move this thing to the center. Then go to the out, move this thing to the center. And because I have a snapping, when I click the center, I feel that is there. It doesn't want to move anymore. Okay, so now I have it in the center. And I like it better, see, because it hides a little bit. I think that is going to work better. There, at the very beginning, very good. But now I need to go to the last one and I say, hey, you need to be at the end of this business. Maybe this is the moment to put this a little bit closer. There, this curve sucks big time. Venga, look at the mess. Okay, could put it closer, but then I have the risk that it doesn't understand. So I'm not going to do it. The magnifying glass. Okay. Move it. Yes, 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 already snapping. And try to put it at the very end. Good. So I have a guide drawn on a layer that has been set the layer to work as a guide. A classic tween in another layer that I've pushed. So now they have recognized each other. And an element, the element that is being tween, that is snapped to the guide at the beginning and at the end. Result? Yes. Yes. Okay. Let me set this for a second. Let me save. And set for a second to loop. Control, loop like that. Good, almost looks. Now, remember that this is not going to be visible. So keep on going. Okay. Now, I'm working with scenes for the purpose of demonstration. Please don't work with scenes in your work because we're stepping into something very complicated. Lots of errors can happen the moment we begin coding. So this is just for the purpose. And I was thinking, I want to export these. And if I export these, it would export every single scene one after the other. But I have a workaround. I can say, control, test scene, only the scene. And then it would export only this one. So there we have it. And it really looks like it's doing a complete circle. Doesn't, has a little gap, but we don't really see it. Okay, so that's working with a curve path when you're working with classic tweens. Now let's move to the other one that works with a motion tween. I'm going to take both number 2 out. I only want to see one. This is the one that I'm going to see. And I have the C, that is an element that is not moving. And then I have my boat, and I create that. If you want, what I can do is let me take this guy and copy it. And very quickly, since we have this scene tool open, we're going to create that thing that I'm showing you how to make new scenes. Let's make a new scene. Scene 1 copy. Okay, go. They're identical. That's not what I wanted. I wanted a new scene. Keeps on making copies. Oh, because I go to the plus. Silly. Delete. Let's see if I don't end completely messed up. New scene. So I'm going to paste my little boat. And my little boat is a little bit rotated. Maybe instead of pasting the boat, what I have to do is go to the library and drag. How many boats do I have? 2. 2 on the sea. Fantastic. Sea, go to place. And we're going to leave it there. And we're going to call this sea. And we're going to make another layer. And in the new layer, we're going to put the first sailing boat. Clink. There it is. Library close. Here I have our guy. We're going to go a little bit closer so we see what's going on. Okay? And this a little bit lower. And I don't know why I'm talking with this thing so low. Who knows? So I'm going to leave the sea only like that so it doesn't bother me too much. And I'm going to say, I want to move this guy as a curve. So this is my beginning. I want to do this in 50 frames. So I select on 50 and I do function at 5 because I'm in a laptop, but you will do a 5 if you're in a normal one. And I'm going to lock the C so the C doesn't get into my case. So first thing that I have to do is make this layer to work as a motion tween layer. And here I have it. Here I have my guy at the very beginning. And I'm going to go here. And I'm going to say, by the time I'm in 45, I'm going to want this guy to be already here. Isn't it? The default motion, straight. Is this what I want? No. So I want to create a curve. And in order to create a curve, it's going to help a lot here that whenever I want this thing to be in the middle, like here, I'm going to make another keyframe and put it here. Because this is an easier case, isn't it? But this is not what I want. I want to follow the C. Okay. So come back to the very beginning. And now with my black arrow, I can begin, you know, trying to take this, taking this thing out, and do it also in the other side. Where are you? Here. Come down here. Now, in order for this to work, I'm going to have to apply rotation, but that I will do later. And then I'm going to my middle, making always sure that you're going exactly where the keyframe is, because you don't want to end with a whole bunch of keyframes that you actually didn't need. So this one is in the right place. And it would be lovely if I could, this one goes here, and could I put, no, do their curve. How do I do their curve? Probably I take this one and I come here. Yes. You don't want to put them backwards. If you put them backwards, you can end with a mess. So, because this is the tool that allows you to see the Béziers, it also works in this one. And now that I'm here, I have a better opportunity. So you see what I'm trying to do is simulate the curve that I have underneath, and I have to rebuild it. If I was in the classic tween, I could just steal it from the C, make an outline and take it. Okay, put this here. This one needs to go a little bit higher. Okay, this one's working better. So let's save this lovely thing. Oh, this was an old file. Okay. And I do have the motion, except that this is not how boats sail on the sea, isn't it? And it's flying like a UFO. So now I have to apply rotation. Now, I could do something that is called, no sé, I have it there, orient to path. If I do orient to path, don't get scared because all this is going to look like a rosary, like it's like a diamond. Look what it's doing. Quing. And it's following, but it's following also in a way that I wanted. Is it? So orient to path works in some cases, not in others. So what I'm gonna have to do is go to my rotate tool and I say, okay, so I'm gonna want you to begin here. Okay, this is perfect. I had in the right rotation here. Then go to the end and I say, no, here, I still want you to be here. You know, this end maybe is too abrupt, but we're gonna leave it. And now that I have it selected, do I have it selected in the keyframe? That's the problem. That's why I don't like it. I don't see my keyframe anymore. To see it, eso es. I'm gonna have to open, and now I see it. You see, this is a keyframe. That is a keyframe. That is a keyframe. So I'm gonna go straight ahead to my keyframe. That is that one. And with the ship selected, I think that it should be a little bit higher because we're sinking inside the sea. But let me look at it now. If I was very picky, mira, woo! Do you see how that guy is jumping? Woo! That curve needs to be changed, but I'm not doing it now. It's just a matter of coming back with this tool. I guess I'm doing it. Selecting here. We lost it. That was very sad. Okay. What I did is I clicked on the element. The evil of this tool is that you click on the point and automatically loses the curve, you know? So then I need to hold Command. This is a trick that I know from other programs on Photoshop. And click on the point with Command open. So it shows me the antennas, but it's not ruining my curve. And as you see, this one is a little bit more faithful, but here I did a jump. And because I did a jump, my animation looks like, okay. So I do have the curve motion that I needed. I can see the path very good, but my motion doesn't have a lot of change of speed. So like, but I have a point. So this is, remember that I told you, if you have points in the middle, you can create a curve. Now, one thing that I've realized, and I haven't figured out before, is that if I'm here, exactly in the place where the point is, and the playhead is there, I'm not going to be able to move the point. So I need to move the playhead somewhere there, so I'm not seeing it, and then go to my point. There's the curve. I say, why can't I be moving? Wish, 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 wish. Okay. So just with this, you see what happened? It's going to be faster here and really, really slow at the very beginning. You see, I'm doing this slow. But I could say, hey, point. Madre mía. Come here. Because I want, look what happened here. Oh, but this, let me see it. Oh, yes, it also messed up the path. It also messed up the path. Not good. Okay, let's come back. And this lovely tool, and this is when this thing is gonna pay. No. So I guess it was not a good place, a good example to be changing the speed, because I changed the speed and the path. Another problem with the Motion Tween editor. It's changing also the path. That is something that I do not like. So here you have the basic way. And I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna close this one. And without trying to change that, I'm gonna take this one off, make another layer, bring another, no, this is not what I want. This is the scene. Close. Library. Let's take another boat. No, this other one that is student. And we're not going to do curve. We're just going to do motion. So you can see how you can alter the speed. So I have this guy here. It's also going to be the Motion Tween. And it's going to go from here to here. Easy motion. And this one is going straight. We have no problem here with the C. It's just going, no, Alejandra. This is here, and I'm coming to 40. And by the time I'm 40, remember that this one works different. You have to go to the place and then do the move. And there you have my constant move. Now, if I wanted to put an ease, I could still come here and with these things selected, I can still do a basic ease here. No, say, okay, I want this type of ease, and little ease up. And then if we open these, we're gonna see that. So here I have my original motion that was gonna finish in 14. And here I have how the motion have changed when I've applied the ease. So actually that guy is gonna arrive there way before 14. See, it's already there, already there. But notice that not there used to be there, it used to be here, but now here, because we need to have a lot of fun, is this the way I see it, or I can change the speed? Let me try it for a second. So if I say I want 200, am I gonna, yes. So what I'm doing is zooming in the view. That is not what I want. If I want the ease, this is what I have. Now, if I want to change the ease, I might say, you know, I might want this one, or I might want this one. And I might say, hey, let me add a point and add a point over here and be able to change things here. Okay. I'm trying to change that point and there's no way. I'm always finishing faster. But as you see, I have an initial curve and now I'm changing how the motion is working. So let me show it to you. I'm almost stopped there in the middle and then fast. Okay, but let me come back and say, you know what? I don't want any, no ease. Come back to my normal, constant, boring move. I don't have an ease, but because I have a point, and in the point I decided that I wanted these, now I'm finishing in my freaking 40 as I wanted, and I have my slow down in the middle. And if it's a race, and I want one to slow down around frame 20, but then the other one to slow out at the very beginning, and the other one to slow out at the very end, it's very easy to change things, to change when the change of speed is happening without altering your major keyframes. Now, as you see, it didn't work at all when we also have a curve, because it was changing both things. It was changing the geographical path and the time. But when you have a movement that is more straight or is in zigzag, so it doesn't require that precision, or you don't care that it's going above. You're not exactly going above the sea. You say, you know, if it does a little jump, it looks interesting. Then I think it's a good idea to get the point and draw your own point, okay? So before I go to the next one, that is paths, I want people, I need juice, because this computer is already running out of memory. And I want people, if you have questions on this, it's 10:26, we're doing good, people. Or even John, if John wants to talk about something, let me close. Should I leave the motion editor? Okay, any question or comment on what we have done so far? That is guides with classic tweens and a curved path with a motion tween, and a little bit of changing eases with the curve editor. Those are the things. I know that is a lot. Comments or questions? It went above. It went so above that you cannot even ask. That's not very good. Vadim, no questions? Okay, let me close this so you don't get scared. Again. Let me close it. So if you want, vamos a ver. So then, no questions, but give me your feeling. What do you find more easy? To do a curved path using a classic tween and a guide, or to do a curved path using a motion tween? What does it look easier to you? Vadim? No?
Yeah, I motion tween.
The motion tween feels easier to you?
Yes.
Yes, so you are more capable, you know, if we have something like this where we have, you know, our path is completely straight, for you it's easier if you have to create a curve here, isn't it? Now I have to tell you.
Yeah, it's more kind of, yeah, working with it. Okay. I actually had a question from the earlier
Yes.
All right. I don't know, but about snap to. What is that concept of snapping to?
Well, it's fundamental in computer graphics.
I'm
So,
sorry.
no, but let me explain. So when you have an object, every symbol has a center. So we're even going to have to differentiate between two things. I cannot select it because I'm in the middle of a tween. But here I have a symbol. And look at this guy. This guy has a cross and a circle. You see it? The cross is where is the center of the symbol. So if I go inside the symbol, and I could do it in the library so you go less crazy. So if I go inside my symbol, I see that the position of the drawing, this is like the center of the universe of this symbol. So the position is on the side. I could also have my artwork aligned to the center. Okay, but in this case, this symbol, the position to its own universe is that it's going to the right and below of its universe. So that's the cross. But then I have the other one that is, and let me put it, a new one, not in the middle, for God's sake, Alejandra, leave it up there. I'm gonna put everybody to invisible, and I'm gonna grab another red circle. And I'm gonna put it here. Okay, so this red circle has the cross on the side. The cross is not important now, but it will be very important when we're working with coding, because it would grab the object from wherever is the cross. That's the reference point. But that circle is the axis of rotation and of scales, the axis for moving, the information about how do you move that object. If the center, if the little dot is in the center, when you rotate, and we're not going to see it too much because it's a flat thing, it's rotating like that. But if I move this guy out, it's rotating like that. And it's scaling like that. So that is, we call it the axis of rotation and scale. Is the information of when I move this guy, I move it according to what? Related to what? Okay, so that is the guy that you want. And the same way that if I'm scaling this, it scales related to that. If I want this guy to be following on every frame a guide, it needs the center, that is the axis of what is going to be working, it needs to recognize the line. Now, how do they recognize? Because they snap, they recognize each other. Now, you could be super lucky and move this guy with the center and put it exactly where the line is going. But computer software, to help you, have different ways of snapping. And it's like a little magnet. So if you have a snap align and you have an element that is like that and you put another one, and if a snap align is on, when they're aligned in the same horizontal, it would kind of hold it with a magnet and even draw a line and say, hey, you're aligning now. And if I move it and put it out, you're aligning now. If you snap to grid, it's snapping to this invisible grid that you have behind. I will have to go to view and say view grid. If I snap to pixel, that is not really useful for us now, but it's very useful when you're going to be exporting to certain formats. And when you snap to objects, then is when you're making sure that if I have a guy here and a guy here, when they barely touch, ping, they do a snapping. And when they both have the center in the same place, cling, another snapping. And when one touches the other one, cling, another snapping. So it's helpful, is a function of the software to help you align things in a certain way. Does it make sense? Vadim, does it make sense?
Yes. I'm sorry to break this, but again, I don't understand. I understand very clearly about this axis of rotation, the circle.
Yes.
I still didn't understand the difference between that cross and the circle.
Okay.
The
you
cross,
know that, yes.
the center of the universe, but it seems to be that it doesn't rotate around the
when
center.
I don't have these, when I select it and I don't have the transform, I select this guy and I see the snap. That is what you need right now. Like I should have not given you this extra information because you don't need it right now. It's not useful. Okay. So as a normal thing, I don't want to change it now because we can ruin it. You're gonna see the circle and the cross in the middle of the circle, because many people align. Let me do any other guy. Yeah. I take this guy that is semi-square. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to right click, and say convert to symbol. And when I do convert to symbol, look at that. Where do you want the center of the universe to be?
Mm-hmm.
You want it up there? Do you want it in the center? And usually we have it here. And say, okay, in the center. So then when I look at the guy, look, the little circle and the cross, they're both in the belly button. You see? Now, this little cross doesn't bother you at all. You don't need it for anything right now. But in the future, it's going to show up. So I'm trying to get people used to the idea that each object has 2 points of reference. One is the cross, that is the center of the universe inside the symbol, and the reference for action scripting. And the other one is the axis of rotation. The axis of rotation can be changed with a transform tool at any given moment. In fact, a very nice scare is when you're doing a tween and you put the axis of rotation in one keyframe, in one place, and in the other one in a different place. And then instead of an animation, you have a gigantic jump, because it's like, I don't know what happened. I was animating thinking that the axis was here, and suddenly the axis was somewhere else, and it cannot even interpolate, okay? So this is the one that you have to be thinking about now. That is this thing that can be moved. And in fact, if you're doing a tween, you better have that axis in the same place in every keyframe of the tween, or you would have a lovely jump and the tween would not work anymore, okay? But I have no problem with you asking problems. In fact, asking questions. In fact, you help the bulk of the class that has not been thinking about that in detail. And now they have a recording where that is being explained. So it's wonderful. Okay, anybody else wants to make another comment about classic tweens and guides or motion tweens with curve paths? Actually, they're doing the same. The result is the same. And I'm not requiring that you work with one or the other. I want curve paths, but you do it however you want to do it. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you use
Can you what?
a guide too?
Can I what?
Because your example is a classic tween. So
yes.
You can use motion tweens. Use motion tweens with guides. You can. So it's not just classic tweens?
No. The motion tween comes already with a path, and it would not accept anything else. You have to think, those are different monsters. For 10 years, a motion tween was what we know now as a classic tween. And then suddenly they said, let's bring a tool that is more from After Effects. And then they brought like a complete new cluster of tools. So the guide was something that was invented before and was the way of having a motion path for the old tween. And now the new tween, that is the motion tween, comes with its own path that is already pre-built, and you cannot change that.
Okay. So you can use a curved path with a motion tween instead.
Yes. So the motion tween has to work with its own curved path that comes built from factory. And then the classic tween has its own way of creating a curved motion that is with a guide. And they don't see each other. They don't like each other. They belong to different phases in evolution. So you cannot, the tool of one cannot go to the other. It's what happens when you have a software that has evolved with different companies, because this used to be Macromedia, and Macromedia already had motion tweens and guides. But then Adobe was developing things in a different way, coding in a different way, and came out with After Effects. And when Adobe bought Flash, Macromedia Flash, they began trying to make it easier, but there was a lot of resistance because people that already knew the software said, don't change it, this works perfect. And I said, okay, we'll leave both at the same time. And then you have ended with a software that has two completely different ways of creating very similar results. And it's up to us to choose one way or the other. It's a very peculiar software, this software, that it has evolved in a very unusual way. Many teams of programmers have been working in this software. And it's like a little monster animal, what has come up. Okay. Okay, so I think that I should talk a little bit about masks, isn't it? Now, I have not talked too much about eases in a classic tween. Let me take off well, everybody's out except here that I have two guys, no? So let's take one out and let's make a silly, and let's move here, and it's going to be a little bit rotation, although nobody's going to see the rotation, unless if I do this, then we'll see the rotation. And I'm going to move this keyframe, move. And I'm going to make right click and I say, give me a classic tool. And I go from here to here. Now I can see the rotation. Click, click, click. And I decide, let me change this so I only see, oh, one. So I see myself. And we don't need the library right now. We're not looking at things in the library. You know, all these mess is because I'm trying to explain in a tiny, 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 tiny screen. So right now, it says classic ease, but if I look at my curve is completely straight. So you could come here and say, I understand enough as to say what type of curve do I want. And the moment you click, you have a point. And you can begin, this is your speed, this is your speed curve. So in this case, I might say, hey, I want to begin really, 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 really fast. So fast that I want to begin already in acceleration, okay? And then suddenly I really got tired and things are going very slow. And I say, yeah, save and apply. And what I see, in this one, if you want to see the path, you need to activate. And here we have, you see at the very beginning, like a thunder, and then slow, 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 slow. So this is one way of controlling. Whoa. And that was, I came straight ahead and I drew the curve, okay? Now, can I, it doesn't let me reset, don't you love it? What if I select this guy and I delete? It pretty much resets. Now I can say reset, okay. Well, reset and comes back to what it has before. Ah! Select again, delete, we're gonna leave it for now. Apply this. And then, yes, since I have a little bit here, it's a little, it goes on custom. Remember, I'm doing a classic tween, but I just wanted to show you. I think that I showed you last week, but do it. I want only an ease in, and those are the different ways of creating an ease in. From all those, the strongest is the quint. Or I want an ease in and out. That's a very good thing. And quint is an in and out is a little bit now. Let me give me something soft. Okay, so I have something that is still relatively close to a constant movement, but I have a little bit of catching up and a little bit of smoothing out. In order to get this one to work, I need to double click. You don't know how long I was applying, not double click. It's like, it never kicks in. Double click. And now it kicked in. It says me, I have a quad is in and out. So my mode is in and out, but I'm doing it in a quad type of function. And when I see it working, you see, I see what I want to see, but it has a little bit of smoothness. Once you begin animating, you completely can detect the difference between something that is working uniform and something that has a little bit of ease, okay? So let me try something, last thing. What if when I am moving, instead of all properties together, I'm gonna separate. And I'm gonna leave my position. I've lost my thinking, sad, but I can come back. And I say, I want an ease in and out with the software. This is the one that I want. Double click. Okay. But then for the rotation, I want something very, very different. I want the rotation to happen at the very, very end. So there's not going to be rotation until here. And suddenly it really catches up and rotates. So yes. And then I watch it. Haha. Do you see how the rotation is happening at the end? And there's a very smooth transition. If I had done it by hand, saying, okay, now begin rotating, I don't think that it would have looked so smooth. So this is breaking the properties of a classic tween and doing each property by itself. When you open the Motion Tween editor, remember that by default, each property is listed by itself. So you're working with each property by itself from the very beginning in the motion editor. Now in this one, you can choose. Do I want all at the same time Or do I really want to have each one by itself? Now, I'm not applying color. I'm not changing scale. I don't have filters. We cannot do filters until we don't do motion twins. So that is, those are other things that I could be animating by itself. Okay, so now we know everything. We know the lecture. We know the explanation about how to work with curve paths and how to work with eases. Let's go to masks. We're not doing that, but we're not working advanced either. Let's go to a simple mask. Okay, this is my lovely sample file, and I'm wondering, new. I want a little one. I'm gonna do a mask by myself, and I'm gonna save it because I have 17,000 files all open at the same time. So let's save as. We're gonna save it in downloads, and we're gonna do mask test. Okay, I have a white background. Maybe we can change it. That's not very. I like that. It's still very light, but it's not blank white. And I don't want a white color for fill. I want maybe kind of a nice blue, this guy. So I need a mask. So I need an image to bring behind. Do I have images? Or can I make a gradient? Okay, so I'm gonna be building here a gigantic square, the size of my line and everything. I don't need line at all, but what can we do? There we go. Now I'm gonna select this guy, and I'm gonna come here to color, and I'm gonna say, instead of solid color, too bad because I really like that blue. Let me copy. So I can come here, copy the hexadecimal color, because I know that when I say gradient, probably I'm gonna lose that color. So, and we're gonna do maybe a linear gradient, you see? And I say, okay, so go to the white, and in the white, I could double click, and then I get all the colors in the universe, and probably I get the same blue. Or with it selected, I can come here and change the hexadecimal number. If you don't know what is a hexadecimal number, maybe you need to take my 103 class, where I'm explaining basic concepts in computer graphics. Is a number that has red, green, and blue, and it gives the amount in a certain way. So when I say blink, my blue comes here. Now I'm going to put also here another one in the middle, and I'm going to go for something like that. Am I seeing that? Yes, I'm seeing it. And it's going to be over here. And then over here, I'm going to do a lighter green. Yeah. Vale. And in the middle, I want another darker blue. So I'm going to paste my same color. Okay, so now I have something that is, I like it. So this is going to be my dough, what I want to see through. I don't know if I like beginning in black, but it's going to stay like that. So let's call it dough. This is my dough. And I'm going to lock it because I don't want to screw it up. And then I need another layer on top. And the layer on top is going to be my mask. And we're going to begin by having text. So I'm going to write something here quickly out. I need it way bigger. At least that big. And I'm going to put, hello. Okay, and it needs to be way thicker. So no regular, can I do bold? Bold, okay. If it was bigger, it would be even better. And so instead of 96, I wanted like 130. Yes, now we're talking. Okay, I'm not positive that I can do a mask with a text that is still alive. We're gonna try it. So this is called mask, but it's not a mask, it's a normal layer. So I'm going to have to double click on this guy and say, I want you to be working as a mask. Ta-da! And look how the icon changes, okay? Now I'm looking at purple because I left the outline, but there I have my guy. But now I'm gonna go to this one, and I do have masked as an option. The mask always needs to be underneath. If you put it on top, it's not gonna work. If you have another layer that is doing nothing in the middle, it's not gonna work. They need to see each other. So this one is gonna be worked as masked. Oh yeah, so I see them like that. Put it back, I see both. And now, if I can have a live text working as a mask, when I lock them both, the gradient would disappear and I would only see it through the text. Let's see if it works. Yes, it worked. Okay, so meanwhile they're locked, let's say this, it's a great moment in the life of the artist. Meanwhile they work there like that, but the advantage is if I disconnect, I can do things like this text was not centered. And then look again, or change the gradient. So it's a very convenient thing. Now, in a mask, you can also have an animation. Now, how can we do an animation? I want all in the same layer. Let me draw a fish. So I'm gonna do something like that. And it's gonna be a very simple fishy. And we're going to be filling it with a flat color. I don't need any color because it's going to be part of the mask. So I'm going to fill it with this color and with this color. And I'm going to select it and I'm going to convert it to symbol. Convert to symbol. And I'm going to be called fish. Graphic symbol. Okay. Now, I want to go inside the symbol. I'm going to put it here more in place. And go closer, and I'm going to double click to just get in. Okay. Because it would be nicer if this was like that. No, not that. It would be like that. And I will see more, so I can see more of a mask. Okay. And all those horrible lines that I'm investigating here, I don't need them. And this is a very peculiar fish. And it's going to have an eye that is a hole. Because that means the mask is going to do something funky. Okay, what's another line that I don't need? What is this line doing? Okay, so I'm inside the symbol, isn't it? I don't want to do nesting today, but I can move these with a chain tween. So here's my fishing. I'm trying to move it inside the symbol. Now, I'm not doing still like doing too much animation, but I'm going to do the basic that is easy. That is, we're going to do a shape tween. So this fish is going to be, by the time it's here, keyframe, and it's going to be here and here, and maybe, and by the time it's here, it's going to be here, and here, and by the time it's here, another keyframe, and we're going to have to get him out. Now remember that a shape tween cannot move in curve, so it's not going to look very realistic, but we have limitations this week because I don't want to get into a symbol inside another one animated. That's too much. So I'm going to select all my guys. Basically, the only thing that I'm doing is moving it across the stage and a little bit of deforming. And I'm coming here and I'm saying, make this a shape tween. So here we have it. A little bit of problems with the line. Darn it. I don't want that because that is going to mess up the mask, or it could potentially. Out. I'm taking lines out. Click out, double click, so all the line gets selected. I know that there's another one that is inside the eye. Another one, all line, fuera, and all that out. Let me see my animation. Bad. Okay, so we go out. And now in the same layer, you can do that. We have a text that is alive and a fish that contains an animation. How long was my animation? I don't care. I'm going to give these 60 frames. Control F5. Hey, control. No, you don't want to give me? You think that I'm, maybe because that one is locked? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, let's select them both. Let's right click. Oh, it's function. I was not holding function. Insert frame. Okay, there we have it. Now, I'm going to be seeing a fish that is moving and a text that is black because it doesn't kick in until I don't lock it. Lock? Fishy. It disappeared. Why? Pobrecito mío. Why did you disappear? You're here. And I can put an animation inside. Let me do a test. Have little problems here, last minute problems. It could not put up with the live text and the fish. So here I have my guy. He's kind of looking, mira, why is the eye appearing and disappearing? That's a problem of the shape tween. But I can deal with that later. Now, since I'm very stubborn, let me come back here to the mask layer. Or if I put it, no. I'm gonna take my text and I'm gonna break it and break it. And now let's see if I see both. No, I don't see anything. Okay, this is new. I used to be able to have several things in the mask, but maybe I've gone too far. Okay, so let's leave our fishy that is not working because it's not locked. Now I see my mask, okay? I don't know if I made it more difficult than it had to be. Now let's go to our file that is mask simple. You have seen the process. Basically, it's 2 layers, at least 2. One that is a mask that is on top, and underneath one that is masked, although you can have several layers that are being masked. I don't like being so low because I'm seeing stuff. Okay. So here we have something very similar. I have a text that is actually, my text is in my mask, is here, and this text is moving. So I have a classic tween straight ahead on the mask. That also works. I could have done a motion tween, but I had the text and I didn't want to get rid. And that's why I stepped into the previous program. So I can have a symbol. The symbol can be motion tween here. And then here what happens is I change what I had in the dough layer and came like that. Now let me unlock it. And you see that I have some text that is actually, it's the same one or is static text? This is normal text and this is actually my symbol. So here's my symbol and my symbol is moving and it's black. But since what I have behind is a gradient and is masked, when I kick them together, I'm seeing the mask. Now, a mask when I had a gradient that is vertical, I'm not seeing much. If I had put the gradient horizontal, as it went down, I would have seen the difference. But then I've changed the image and I have something different. Let me lock it again so you guys see it. In this case, there's not much of a difference. In this case, you see a little. As the text is changing, we see different area of the image. Let's move a little bit. In this case, what I'm doing is a shape tween. So I did a shape tween straight ahead on the unlock, Alejandra. A shape tween that is a black thing. These two below. I remember that I'm still doing it. You see that it's a little bit like one touching the other. I don't like that. I think that I used clothespins. So you can also have, an animation on the mask, but you can also have animation behind in the layer that is masked. Let me lock everybody so you can see the effect. So this shape is morphing and is letting us see different area. Now we use this a lot in animation. When you want to have, instead of having a flat color, you want to have a texture. I don't know if you have seen animations where it's like a sheep and there's a texture of sheep hair, or there's a cloud and there's like a cotton image behind, or there's a character that is a girl and you have a complete image of a pattern of a dress. And as the girl is moving, we're kind of traveling through the pattern, and it creates this kind of like weird, interesting visual effect. So you can do that by, you know, moving the element and having the element as a mask. Remember, you need area, not line, area. Or you can be animating what is underneath. So let's see what is underneath. This is what I'm doing. I'm making it smaller. But as I'm making it smaller, notice that my dough, I'm beginning to run out of dough. So then the shape of these would get compromised. So what I did is I put another layer that is being masked, and it's another type of orange. Why? You say, you know, why do you put that orange there? It doesn't match at all. If I take this out, notice that as the dough is finishing, the shape is getting compromised. It's a little bit like if I have a sheet of dough like that, and my cookie cutter is like that. Instead of getting a complete circle, I'm gonna get half a circle because I'm running out of dough, isn't it? And if what you're animating is something important, imagine the letter of a company. If I am missing the shape of the letter, I'm in big trouble. So remember that if you're running out of dough, either you move the dough and you always have dough, or you put another layer underneath. And then the shape of your mask does not get compromised. Okay. You could have several mask layers for a different reason. We can be like looking at something that is happening through goggles. And then we can have also a guy that is walking. No? So we see the landscape and we see the guy that is walking. If you want the guy walking, it will have to be in a different mask layer. Okay. So there are different reasons to have only one mask and several masked layers. No way that one same layer has two masks. That doesn't work. You only have one mask. So you can do it even more difficult, and you can have animation in both things at the same time. Animation on the mask and an animation in the mask layer. And then you end with things like that. I also did a little last effect. Let me see if this is what I have. Yes. Yes. So I put this thing on top that I think is fading in, yeah, to make the scene more interesting and look more like Tibetan little flags moving. Okay, do I have more things in this one? Yes, I have a second one that I like a lot. And several people have asked me, Alejandra, can you have shadows in anime? And you know, making something soft is a matter of making a gradient and making it the solid color that you want, and then the color that is out close to the background color and set to transparent. And then you see something that looks like a soft shadow. But in this case, what we're doing is I have a mask that is going through a gradient. Do you see that egg, kind of egg circle thing, has very interesting visual effects, and it's because it's traveling through a gradient, the same gradient than before. And then what I did to try to be very economical is I put the same symbol. So let me put it here. Let me see. So this guy, cannot select them because they're all locked. So this guy is ball, and this guy is also ball. I make ball semi-transparent, okay? And I put it to complete the effect. But this guy is not, I mean, it's going from one place to the other. I like the effect a lot, even with the shadow being opaque, because they move at the same time. Having the gradient behind makes that circle look more curved. And then having the shadow moving at the same speed gives this very three-dimensional effect, isn't it? Like it emphasizes that you're moving in a straight line, but you're moving like that. So meanwhile, this one's coming like that, it looks like they're encountering. It's a normal physical effect. If you have a perfect source of light that is on top, this is the shadow that you will see. Okay, I was tempted to change the shadow. So you will see how a soft shadow works. That's going to be 11 or 3. Depends on how many questions we have. Okay, so that's the second mask. Remember, the shadow is not part of the mask. The mask is the shape of the egg and the gradient behind, that is the dough. Okay, and I have a third file. Don't stop. It's called Mask Animated L. And I wanted you, here I have more of a gradient. I wanted you to see the effect of working with gradients, and especially on text. That is something very boring and very flat. And what I'm doing here, in the mask, I have the word L. And then as a dough, I have a big gradient. And the background is black. So at the very beginning, because we're only seeing the letters through the gradient, there's a whole section of letters. A ver, can I do? No, it's not letting me. A whole section of letters that I'm absolutely not seeing. And then as I move that gradient, it does this interesting lighting effect, isn't it? That looks a little bit like 3D. Ooh. And then after leaving there, I decided that I was going to begin moving L back. So L is moving back. The gradient, I believe, is not moving, or is moving also. Let me see. So at the very beginning, the gradient is moving. That's why we're seeing the letters. And then, yes, the gradient is moving back and becoming more circle and more centric. Meanwhile, come back here, the text is trying to disappear from the other side. So gradient is going in one direction. Text is not moving, but it gives a dynamic effect. And now text is beginning to move and is appearing from the opposite of the normal side, from the left. Okay, so those are all the possible things that you can do with masks. The first day that you work with masks, if you don't have a nice background in computer graphics, if you don't know Photoshop, this is going to be a little bit here because it's a lot of visual effects that you're working with. But this is something that you can use in all the next 10, 11 weeks, more, 12 weeks. So masks is something that is very important in computer graphics, and that you're going to be able to use it in many different ways. Okay, so at the beginning, you don't have to go too crazy. You can do, you know, simple attempts of masks where maybe things are not moving all the time. In this one, everything is moving, but where is my test? Here. Here's my test, where my background was not changing and only my little fish. Remember that I animated this guy inside, but I could have made him a symbol and then animated here in front. Maybe it would have been less complicated for you guys. Okay, do we have questions in masking? Do you guys get the basics? The basics is you have a layer that you change in properties to work as a mask, and you have another layers that you change in properties to work as masked, and it's underneath. And you're gonna have one or several. And what you put in the mask is something that is a shape, and that is defining what exactly the cookie. You're defining the cookie shape, the cookie area, not the shape, because it's not a line, it's the area. And then what you have underneath is how that area is going to be filled with what. That is why we don't care about the color of this fish. We wanted some color so we can see it, but we don't care the color because we're not going to see it. The moment that the mask is working, we're going to see it filled by what is on the base. Any question or comment? If you don't have questions, I will go back and I will try to make a shadow that is soft. No questions? No comments? No, we have less people than we used to have. Okay, let me come back to this one. Yes, and here I have my shadow that is going on flat. I'm gonna try to make another shadow. So I'm gonna put it on top, and I'm gonna call it shadow 2. And I'm gonna take my oval that is black and black. Good, I don't need a line, but I can delete it later. And I'm gonna draw my element. Take the line out. Select my guide. go to color. And I don't want a solid color. I want a radial gradient. And look what I'm getting. Woo! Off me. No, I don't think so. So select, move it out, move it out. Am I deleting or are they all there? How can I delete them? They're silver. I want solid color. That is black. And now I want a gradient. I keep on having. There's a combination of keys to delete these, but I'm not find it. No. How can I delete? What is this? Oh, good, good, good. I'm trying to get away. It's like, no, I don't want that thing. I want, okay, what about that? That's better. Okay, and where is my poor guy? He disappeared. Vale, let me make another one. I want no line, and I want my ellipse. Okay, I want to select my guy, and I want to come back here and say I want a radial gradient, and let's hope that I get what I want. Yes, but this is not what I want. I want the center to be black and the outside not to be white. So when I go to the outside, hold it or double click, and I want that color, the color of the background. Okay. How did I select this color? Something like that would work. Okay. And then I'm gonna take another one, and it's still gonna be black here. So it does this. It's not changing because it's not selected, but it doesn't matter. When I save it, okay, now I'm gonna take this last color. I'm gonna take the alpha all the way to 0, okay? And I'm gonna add it to swatches. Swatches is gonna be here. So when I select and I come back here to all the possible colors, it should be here. Is that? No. Come on, I just added to swatches. Done. Okay. Boy. There it is. It's gonna look like a black dot. Okay. Do I have, where are you? It does have the black dot. I know what's happening. Where is my lovely tool to apply a gradient? Sorry, this should not be happening. Is that this gradient is going completely banana. Okay, a little bit better. Now, gradient tool, and I need my gradient tool. No, not that. I need it to, espera. I need this to rotate like that. So now I can make it also small like that. And I might be seeing my soft. Yes. Select it again. The other one, what happened is it was completely transparent because the gradient was applying far away. Now it's doing that because look at the amount of files that I have open at the same time. So it's, the memory is beginning to be here. So this thing is good, but in order to not see those things, I need to really scale this down. Now, there you have a soft I have a gradient that is applied exactly, and I have a transparent color. And then if now I want to make it smaller to match the other one, that is fine. Now the scaling would work because I've already applied, you see? There you have a soft shadow compared to a hard shadow. If I wanted more shadow, I would have to leave in the gradient more space. That's something that I can do. Do you want me to try? 11:13, I still have a minute. Let me make it a little bit bigger so at least we see it. Oh, mira, my transparent color. So this is my soft shadow, but if I want to see it even clearer, if it's selected, let's go to this thing, come here. Yes, it's giving me more range of transparent, and I can see it even softer. Now, what we cannot stop is that there is more gradient on the sides than on the upper part, but that actually works with perspective. It looks like a shaping perspective. It has to be like that because we have taken the gradient that was a circle, the gradient is a circle, and we have scaled it. So logically, I get less area of semi-penumbra, semi-transparency here than here, okay? But that's the trick to make a soft light. Now, if you want to move this guy around, we would have to make it as a symbol and say soft shadow graphic. That is good. And then now we can shape tween it however we want. Keep on going to control instead of going to function. So I put this guy now here. And go to here and say that I want transfer. And there's moving and soft. Okay, okay. Oh, now I really have a little mess. Okay, that's a question that I got actually in the 2D animation class. And I thought, oh, I haven't talked at all about that in the other one. So I wanted to make sure that you would see it. Okay, I think that I'm going to finish these. And then if you guys want to ask me something, you can ask me after I finish the recording, because we are about time. Thank you so much. I hope you have fun with those things. They require precision and working slowly. But this week is called advanced computer animation. So you're already in advanced techniques.